All right. If everybody could please mute your line unless you have something to say, because I do have this on speaker view. And if your line isn't muted and there's any background noise, your picture is going to be the one that pops up for everybody. So just go ahead and mute yourself for now. And then, I do these in a meeting format because that's what I want it to feel like. I want people to feel empowered to raise their hands and talk and ask questions and all that. So for those of you that have been on Coach's Corner webinars before, you kind of know the format. This is me here, Coach Laura, looking to talk to other coaches that have graduated from this program specifically and are running successful businesses. And what I love about all the people that we've had on so far is just how different everybody is. And Coach Bill is no different. Coach Bill has a completely different background and a completely different story from anybody else that we've had on. And I just think he's a phenomenal representation of what it means to be a Primal Health Coach. I hope I'm not building you up too much, Bill, but he's been a huge advocate of Primal. He was one of our early students, and he's just an amazing coach and a great guy. And he's also someone running a fitness-based business. We haven't had somebody on who's running a fitness-based business before either. So what I would like to do, Bill, I'm going to ask you to just sort of introduce yourself, about kind of what led you to coaching, your background, a little bit about kind of why you chose Primal Health Coach as well. And then I've got some other questions we'll lead into, and then we'll get other people's questions as well.
Awesome. Gee, I don't know where to start. I wrestled as a kid. My father was a professional wrestler. I don't say that with any kind of pride whatsoever. I wrestled. I couldn't go to college if it weren't for wrestling. Lifted weights since I was about 6 years old. Worked as an engineer for about 45 years. As you can tell, I'm a little older than all of y'all. Let's see. I bought a gym 15, 20 years ago, something like that, with the intention of not running it commercially. My training partner and I just wanted lots of space, and then it seemed like ridiculous that we had so much unused space so much of the time. So we opened it up to a few people. I'm going to struggle this because I hadn't thought about this part of the whole thing. I have, as far as weight training, fitness, I have 47 different certifications. I kind of a cert collector, I guess. I was born with what I can call the curse. The curse is being curious. And if you get me interested, I'm careful to not let you get me interested in anything, because if you do, I will become the leading expert in that field. I will become obsessed with knowing more about it. So that's kind of where it started. The coaching came when I discovered that my low back pain was not caused by the lifting that I was doing, so I'm going to skip around a little bit. It's caused by the fact that I have ankylosing spondylitis, which is an autoimmune disease that attacks your spine.
Wow.
The other end of that, going back to the fitness thing, I'm an international powerlifting referee. I'm the vice president of the American Drug-Free Powerlifting Federation. I'm one of 8 martial referees in the world. Is that enough bragging, Laura?
I love the background. Yeah, I just wanted people to kind of have an idea as to kind of your background. Would you mind explaining a little bit about how your business is today? And how did you get there? Were you always like that? How did your business evolve? Because I know a lot of people are on here that are just starting, and they've got a vision of kind of where they want to go, and are a little unclear as to how they're going to get there. And my story is a meandering story, and many people's are. So I would love for you to share yours.
So we have to back up to the ankylosing spondylitis and the autoimmune disease. 2000, I went through 8 different doctors trying to find a diagnosis for what was wrong with my back. I had one doctor that wanted to put 8 pounds of titanium around my spine, and another doctor that said it's a good thing he didn't, because I'd be taking it all out. Took 8 doctors to finally get somebody who said, you have an autoimmune disease. And as I mentioned before, if you get me curious or interested in something, I will consume everything I can about it. In the course of researching, I came across this guy named Rob Wolf.
Oh yeah.
We've interacted a fair amount. I learned what he was doing, Lauren Cordain stuff, and discovered that if I ate actual food and changed the way I exercised, I felt better. And when I first got the diagnosis, I was on methotrexate and Humira, and those are both. Methotrexate is a pretty nasty drug. I was able to wean myself off it, working with a doctor who was wise beyond his limitations. We're going to talk about limitations later, I suspect. He allowed me to do what I needed to do, and I put, after about 2, maybe as long as 3 years, put the disease fully into remission to the point where I was able to compete again. Wow. Screwed up and fell off the wagon and put it back fully on, and had to work extra hard to get back off again. But I'm the autoimmune. When the first doctor said, you know, the nice thing about autoimmune diseases is when you find out which one you've got, that's the only problem you'll ever have. Wow, you know, I learned very quickly, if you have autoimmune difficulties, you will have all of them. You'll have lots of them. I ended up becoming a type 1 diabetic as well. Wow. So I deal with type 1 diabetes and ankylosing spondylitis. Had the doc that I was working with at the time would have me come in 4 times a year and deadlift 500 pounds for his new patients. They'd have a little seminar, and they would talk about what you can do if you follow the protocol that I'm following. Yeah. So I'd come in and load up a bunch of weight. We'd make these wagers on. I was being sneaky. I was actually warming up. We'd lift progressively more weight until I finally max out at 500 pounds, which is, yeah, that's not bad for a guy in his 60s.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So that he ended up with issues with the practice he was with, so that kind of went away. But he started referring people to the gym, where I would talk to them about their nutrition. And I wasn't really working as a health coach. I was just being a trainer that was more knowledgeable than most. Yeah. And we'd talk about diet and movement, and you're going to want me to talk about mobility and stability in a little while, I think. So I started having this one group of doctors send their autoimmune folks to me. You're going to want to talk about the doctors, aren't you?
I want to talk about all of it. And I want anyone listening to ask questions too. So as they are asking questions, I'll either read them out or let them kind of pipe in here, but go ahead.
Well, this got, you and I deciding to do this came about as a result of, I did a brag post, and yeah. I don't post a lot on Facebook. My personal Facebook account looks personal. It's not, it's 100% business. And I'd set a goal late last year that by December of this year, I would have 30 doctors referring their autoimmune and their type 2 diabetic clients to me. And 2 weeks ago, I hit 38 doctors referring people to me. That led to 2 things. First of all, Laura and I deciding we would do this, and then a smaller group of people that I'm a facilitator with in the Master Coach. I have been for 3 rounds now. Some of them said, hey, if we put together a Zoom call, would you tell us how you did that? And sure, you know, I got 10, 15 minutes to spare. Hour and 40 minutes later, we were done talking about how to deal with doctors and have them send clients your way. We actually, if you own a gym, you know that no matter where you are in the world, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, August is a drought. You know, you struggle, you save up money to manage to survive August. The business has grown 20% this month.
Wow.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I don't know what, a lot of it's happened because of seeds we planted long ago, and others have been, we have these doctors sending people over to us. My surprise came a couple of days ago when I tried to return the favor and send one of my long-term clients to him, and he said, no, I can't take any more clients, we're full. Wow, this is not reciprocal. You're just sending people to me and buying my used equipment. This is pretty sweet.
Wow. Wow. So Bill, so you have, so first of all, what I want to wrap up and what I'm hoping people are noticing here is that you had a personal story. You had a personal health story that of success by doing a lot of the hard work yourself. Yes, you saw a practitioner and a doctor who were helping you, but you're the ones who did the work. You had the personal experience of falling off the wagon, which every single client's going to have and have to get back on. And I just think as a health coach, being able to speak from personal experience is even more powerful. And when I first started down this path, the doctor that finally made me well was intermittently sending me clients as well. But I'm like you, the minute I kind of caught on to something that worked, I went deep down that rabbit hole to figure out why did that work when all this other stuff didn't. So, I want everyone to take a message here or take back a lesson here that your personal experience has a lot of value here. Yeah. And I would imagine even if you didn't have this gym in deadlifting 500 pounds, because of the personality you have, because of the passion that you have, and that tenacity to try to learn more, could have led you down this path as well, which I think is amazing. I do want to get into, your strength business, your gym business, because we haven't had anybody on here who owns a gym. I have in the past, and I know other people are interested in that, but I feel people are really going to want to know more about how you approach these doctors and what it is you think led them to, having 38 doctors refer to you is enormous. I used to always say, you only really need one or two. You have 38. That's crazy town.
Yeah. So what would you like to talk about first, the gym or how to get doctors to refer people to you? Let's talk about the gym real quick, because I think that's easier.
All right, let's do it.
And you see that I'm pointing?
I see your point.
We're in my office and I'm looking out the window at the gym floor. Gino's the trainer on the floor right now, and he's got a handful of people all working. I see Kyle's doing weighted carries with a kettlebell, and I can't see what everybody else is doing. We're not a power lifter's gym, despite the fact that I'm a power lifter. The gym deals with people with mobility and stability issues. So very quickly, let me tell you that your body is arranged very specifically, that your joints alternate. There's a mobile joint. Let's start at the floor. Your ankle is a very mobile joint. Your knee is a very stable joint. So this is a real life example from someone we're working with right now. The trainer at the high school he competes in decided that he had an ankle problem. So they tape his ankles for every practice and every game. And so the stable joint became his ankle. So the mobile joint became, guess what? His knee.
Wow.
And he came to us for rehab on his knee. We follow a protocol, functional movement systems, functional movement screen. Everyone goes through that. Our process is really simple. When you come in the first time, we do an assessment. First time we do a discovery call. The second time you come in, we do a functional movement screen. Follow that with 3 personal training sessions where you learn how to be a good citizen and how to exercise. If we were a CrossFit gym, we'd probably call it onboarding. We're not CrossFit, we call it fundamentals. From there, you move into semi-private, where we have 1 trainer on the floor for every 5 clients on the floor. We do not do group classes. As I look out the window right now, there are no 2 people doing anything that's even similar to one another. If you've been on our website, you know that my strong feeling matches well with PHCI, because one size does not fit all, whether you're talking about diet, nutrition. The bar and plate, the name came from the fact that there are two big, strong foundations to being healthy. There are actually 4, but the 2 that we can help you with most are the bar, which represents exercise, and the plate, which represents that dinner plate. Uh, it
that's cool.
has nothing to do with the plate that you put on the bar. They're two totally separate things.
Mhm.
The third foundation that we offer is community, and that's why we do hour-long sessions that always go over. The best thing that happened to us as a training business is COVID. We learned the power of appointments, and we have thrived as a result of people have specific times that they're going to be here. So we start everyone with FMS. We don't load unstable joints. We don't load immobile joints. If you come in and you have knee or ankle or hip stability problems, you are not going to squat in the normal traditional sense of a squat. We're going to make you do that movement another way. So that's kind of how the gym works. Now, how does that work in with health coaching? Well, my practice is a little different. I talk to other people and they've got 3-week programs or 3-month programs or whatever. My typical client's with me for 2 years. If you've taken level 1, you know there's a section where there are students' PSAs recorded there for you to listen to. Mine is one of them. The client that I'm working with there still sees me every Wednesday at 5 o'clock. It's been with me for about 2 years because it takes, I don't show you the path and then leave you alone. I just got a little while ago, one of my clients texted me and said her hemoglobin A1C is 6.5. 3 months ago it was 6.8. 6 months before that it was 7.9. And 6 months before that it was in the 9s. And that's why they stay with me. You're going to stay with, if you're a type 2 diabetic, you're going to stay with me till we're under 5.5.
I love it. Wow, 2 years. You know, that's a question that comes up a lot on the phone calls I have with people that are interested in joining a program or coming to health coaching is how long are your programs? How do you get clients to come back? So, I mean, I would imagine, especially the type of clients you tend to work with, have complicated issues that is not going to unwind in 12 weeks. This isn't just a weight loss program, right?
Well, so let me jump in on that. We're just 6 weeks away from finishing our 6-month weight loss challenge. And I'm going to tell you that here's the issue. So I'm going to shock you at the end.
Okay.
If you have excess body fat, you have an emotional issue with food. Until we figure out that emotional issue and deal with it, you're going to continue. You're going to yo-yo diet. Mm-hmm. So our 6-month weight loss goal was to lose 10 pounds. And a lot of people didn't want to do it because they didn't.
6-month period, right?
That's fast. In my mind, that's really moving it. And once you figure out what's going on, my own personal problem, I didn't have a weight problem till I got sick. And then I discovered that the weight loss problem I had is whatever you put on the plate, I was going to eat. Yeah. and it made me feel better because my back hurt and my feet hurt and it was soothing. And so I've very slowly taken all the weight back off. It's not quite there yet, but I figured out the issue and I dealt with it. We spend a lot of coaching time talking about what is that food doing for you? Why are you going for that food instead of another food? Why are you eating now? Mm-hmm.
So are all of your clients gym clients? Like
no.
Health, or do you have some people that are just gym clients, just health coaching clients, some that are both?
Yep.
How does that?
I have. So here's kind of how it works. If you come in and when you come in, you are assigned to a specific trainer. So since Gino's here, let's use Gino as an example. And we'll say Gino has a client named Alex, which is a beautiful young lady. We'll call her Alex because that's her real name. We're not going to protect anybody. Gino's training her and she's doing weekly health coaching sessions with me.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we are proudly the most expensive gym in Michigan. If I found somebody was more expensive, I'd raise my prices. I don't want to be the inexpensive one. We provide the best training that's available and things are worth what you pay for them.
Say that again.
Listen to that. I was going to say, listen to this very carefully. Things are worth exactly what you get paid for. And if you're if you're giving your health coaching away for free, it has zero value. And if you're giving it away for some minimum wage, that's what it's worth. It's worth the minimum.
Yeah. Did you always feel that way? Well, like when you first started out, was that
When I
your
first
best?
started coaching, I never coached anybody for free,
Okay.
but man, I cut some stupid deals.
Yeah. Yeah. We all do. I think in the beginning, we're just grateful to have a warm body that's willing to work with us.
Yep,
And
yep,
we kind of feel like we need to earn our chops a little bit.
yep,
And you end up giving away so much. You end up cutting some really stupid deals, but at the same
yep.
time, that's how you learn, right? So
Well,
what
and the other,
did that shift for you? Do you recall?
it shifted because of, it shifted two times. First was with the gym. You know, I had somebody come in who was a family member and said, "What's the family discount?" I said, "The family discount's really simple. You should really want me to succeed."
Mm.
He said, "So how much is the discount?" I said, "There isn't one."
Yeah.
We also have people who come in and they're saying, for us, so we'll talk about demographics right after we make this statement. We get a lady will come in and bring her two children. What's the family discount for the three of us? I said, sharing a last name does not make you any easier to program for.
Very, very
And all the programs are custom to exactly that person and exactly their needs. So we don't offer any discounting. We don't discount at all because our prices are very fair. Now they're more expensive than everybody else, but there's a reason why our very fair prices are higher than everybody else's. I was going to make another point and I lost it.
Well, you know what? This used to come up for us at the gym all the time too. Do you have a children's price for your classes, for your membership?
Oh,
No, your children require more coaching. They require more
oh.
attention.
So
Let
me attack that.
Yeah, go ahead.
2 years ago, I had a hard and fast rule. I developed the model here by developing an avatar, and my avatar was, and any good business person does exactly this way. My avatar for the gym was a 54-year-old woman who has been raising her kids and just recently became an empty nester, and it was about time she did something for herself.
I love it.
And one of those people who kind of fit the category called me up and said, "I'd like to talk to you about training my 13-year-old son." I said, "Come on in," or my 10-year-old son. He's 13 now. He still trains here. She came in and I said, "I hate kids." I'm lying. I said, "I don't have any kids here. And here's the problem. Your 10-year-old son is going to require personal attention, and he's going to require every session to be personal training."
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "And what's the downside of that?" And I said, "Well, it's going to be very expensive." She says, "Are you going to make my child not get hurt as he plays lacrosse?" Well, if you're familiar with FMS, if you do a combination of two tests, the FMS and the YBT, I can predict with 89.6% accuracy the likelihood of your child getting injured playing their sport. I said, "Yes, I can make your kid healthier." She said, "Well, then what's it going to cost?"
Yeah.
Said, "Well, I'm going to cut you a deal. It's going to be $1,200 a month." And she said, "Okay."
Without a blink, huh?
Well, a blink and a hard swallow.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you that today she is my early morning trainer. We're still training her son. And she changed the way I view dealing with kids.
Yeah.
We now, the kids can come in at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, and that's it, until they prove themselves to be capable of working around adults. There's no discount for them. Instead of 3 fundamental sessions, they do 6. So if your middle school or high school kid wants to train with us, it's going to be expensive, and it'll be worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. So be careful. And look, I agree with you on the whole family, friends and family. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
I think we've all been in a situation where we kind of have to handle that. And I got sucked into that a couple times. And finally there was a family member of mine. I like this was several years ago, but my immediate reaction was, well, my cousin, I'll charge you. She's like, "No, I'm paying for your time.
Mm-hmm.
Don't change it for me. Don't change it for anybody." And so, and ever since then, everybody was the same price. So
Yep.
that was really an eye opener for me. It was so uncomfortable for me to charge friends and family because
Yep.
for years I was the one around the table just answering questions anyway. And then I have to
So
remember I'm doing more than just answering questions here, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let me add another piece to the gym. You see
Yeah.
there's a fold-up screen behind me. Everybody sees that? That's covering up the kitchen. That's where I teach people to cook. If
Yeah.
you remember the gym group, there are a collection of videos of Bill teaching you how to cook good stuff. And I have a contract to produce a cookbook. The working title is How to Eat Well for Cheap. Um,
That'll be a bestseller.
oh, I think it'll sell nothing, but it's fun to write.
Yeah.
Um, so it breaks down to coming back to an answer, giving you a shorter answer to my long diatribe there. You can come in and be trained by one of our trainers, and that's it. You can come in and be we can do health coaching, you and I. You can do both. And the health coaching comes in a lot of varieties. We have a custom branded version of Chronometer that we use for some people. We have sticky notes or sticky circles with happy faces and frowny faces that you stick on a calendar. I explain to people very carefully, there are two paths here. And when you come in and talk to me about weight loss, I need you to understand that this path here is how to be less fat.
Right.
And this path here is how to be more healthy. And if you insist that this is the only thing that matters to you, I'm not your guy. But if you want to get healthy and lose weight slowly and not worry about all those things, then I'm your guy. I can help you. I'll even guarantee my results.
You know what? And I love that you have confidence in that. And then I think that's what anybody listening to this should take away from that as well. Be very clear about what you do and don't do. And don't feel as though you have to compromise and go in a direction that you don't want to go in order to nab a client. I promise you it will not be worth it. It will not be worth it.
1,000%.
Laura, like I can speak from experience. It never goes well when I try to bring somebody on that wants something out of me that I just don't feel right about. And it's not what I do.
And we talk all the time, the people who work here, we have a goal, we have a model, and as long as we stick to that model, we're successful. And if we divert from that model, we are not successful. So I do personal training for power lifters who are getting ready for a national or a world meet, but I do that on Saturday. And the gym is not full of weight droppers. Our statistics come in two pieces. The first is we have a 3 and 4 o'clock time. And if we take those people out, you'll discover that our average age is 52 and we're 84% female.
Wow. Boy, I love
You put them back in and it brings the average all the way down to, those people range in age from, we have an 8-year-old who pays us $540 a month because he requires half-hour personal training sessions. And those kids, they're great to have here, but they're a distraction. They're not part of the model, but we do it because Gina likes training kids.
No, that's great. Awesome. I want to pivot to some of this doctor stuff. So I'm reading through some of these comments. I believe you should never underestimate your worth. Any questions for Bill about this portion in terms of kind of, I guess it can be any questions in terms of relating to a gym and kind of how he structures that with the gym. But I think this is also probably relevant to people that just have a business that they're adding to in terms of how that goes. And do you, so the clients that are with you for like 2 years, is that a pre-built sort of time frame or contract, or that's just tell me, how does that work?
We just when you have 3 choices for health coaching with me. You're going to see me once a week.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk about the in my office people first.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to sit down for half an hour once a week, and we're going to either do that for 4 weeks, 8 weeks, or 12 weeks. The price of each of those is slightly different. I think the difference between 1 month and 3 months is 5%. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of new people. We mentioned to Alex earlier, she shot me a message and said, I'm going to have steak. Can I have baked potato? Sure. Why not?
Yeah.
But what you can't have is 4 beers.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that PHCI says, and I violate, is all of my people have immediate access to me. Now, they're also told that I answer when I feel like it. I want you to send me a message at 3 o'clock in the morning about something that's bugging you, and I'll probably respond at 9:30 tomorrow morning. But they have direct access to me, but on my time schedule.
Yeah.
But I do sometimes peek because it can be an interesting question.
So, so you were one of the first people to jump into our master coach course. Do you find, was that the impetus in sort of reaching out to these doctors, or was that?
Well, let me talk about that a little bit. Here's what I got from. So I'm going to be brutally honest here, okay? I did Primal Health because there's no Paleo Health, and it was as close as I could get to what I really wanted to do.
Right.
And the changes that happened in me are the following. I went from 1-hour appointments to 30-minute appointments. I went from being a teacher who smiled and asked, what are we going to do about that, to being a genuine coach. I still spend a fair amount of time teaching, especially in the beginning, but prior to Primal Health Coaching, I was really strongly, here's what you need to do.
Yep.
And I don't do that anymore. Now it's, what do you think we ought to do? Let me make another point that overlaps between the gym and the health coaching. Mm-hmm. This is a sad statistic, but out of the women that I train, the vast majority of them, I'm the only person saying, gee, you're doing a great job. Mm-hmm. Boy, you look great today. You're working so hard. This is really awesome. And I deal with more tears than, I suspect I deal with more tears than most health coaches do, because, the support system for most women is really, really poor.
Yeah.
This
is something I find interesting. I don't mean to interrupt you, but a lot of times when people's main, like when I think through kind of the landscape of health coaching, and those that tend to have clients that are predominantly women, they're mostly female health coaches. I find it fascinating as a male sort of power lifter that this is the client that, so here's a question, because we talk about niching all the time in the course. Did you choose that niche, or do you think they chose you?
Oh, please let me talk about niches.
Okay, yeah.
Here's the giant mistake everybody does. This is pure opinion, okay? This is Bill 101. Most people go after their niche backwards. What you need to do, in my opinion, I'm going to say that 2 more times so it's fully disclaimed. Don't look for your niche. Let your niche find you.
Yeah.
And I own this is my second gym. The first gym was very much powerlifter centric, and I was getting a lot of women coming just wanting help because they saw that I was really good at thank you, Julie. Yeah. I was really good at dealing with women, and my partner in that gym never saw a woman that he didn't think deserved him. So we had to part company. And it just turned out that I'm really good at dealing with women with health issues. Now, my funny story is, we'll call her Carol because that's her real name. I've been her trainer for somewhere between 8 and 10 years now. And when I first met her, I was training her trainer. I've trained most of the trainers in this area. I was training him. He was going to leave the area, and he said, I want you to take Carol. She's my older female client. I think you'd be great for her. They came up to the gym, and she took one look at me and burst into tears. And, are you okay? She says, you're the scariest person I've ever seen. No, I'll tell you, prior to COVID, I was not shaving my head.
Oh, okay.
But I think I get away with a lot of stuff that most guys can't get away with because I'm going to be 69 years old next month. And I can still deadlift 500 pounds. And if I have a gruff exterior, the interior doesn't match that.
Mm-hmm. So, I can totally get behind that. Let your niche find you. And I'm rebranding my whole business now that I've moved from Illinois to Florida. And one of the exercises I'm going through is reaching out to those that know me best and have known me in this realm and asking them how they would describe what I do or what they would come to me for. If you were really looking for support in something, what is it that would bring you to me? And to try to gather some tidbits there to kind of see what I'm putting out there in the world, and how do people perceive that. And I think that was something a tip I gathered from a business coach that we interviewed actually on the podcast. So I think for those people, because I know it's something people struggle with, and Phoenix is saying this, I appreciate you saying that we need to let our niche find us. As a student, I've been struggling with this topic, and I truly believe it's something we discover in our coaching journey. And you're absolutely right, Phoenix. But a lot of people struggle with the idea of niching. And so if you kind of can sit quietly and try to see, how are people perceiving what it is you're putting out there and who's drawn to you?
Exactly. It would seem to me that if I were looking for my niche, I'd be dealing with people with ankylosing spondylitis and type 1 diabetes, right? Guess what I don't have?
Type 1 diabetics or anyone with that autoimmune condition.
Exactly.
But you're getting it though. You've got doctors for you. This is a beautiful segue because I want to get there. So you've had this sort of natural sort of niche that has found you. Yet at the same time, you have these doctors that are referring you patients. Now, I would imagine here, and this is a statistic that in terms of autoimmune conditions, that tends to be more heavily weighted towards females too, actually. They're much more prone to autoimmune conditions. So I would imagine that trend might continue. But tell us a little bit about this. How do you appeal to doctors? So it started with the one doctor.
Well, it started with the one doctor, but he's gone. And then there was a gap there where there were no doctors.
Okay.
I was sitting in the doctor's office waiting for my turn and discovered that there was a drug rep talking to the doctor. And I thought, how does he get in ahead of me?
Yeah.
So I started paying attention, and what you want to appeal to are not the doctors. You want to appeal to the office manager. There's a restaurant not far from here called the Low Carb Grill. And I called the first office. Actually, this is the second office. We'll talk about the first one last. I called the second office and found the office manager and explained what it is I do and that I would like to bring lunch for all of the office staff because they're the hardest working people in the industry, in the office. And I went and sat and had lunch with the office manager and the front desk people and tried to be charming. And it must have worked a little bit because they said, who you should really talk to is you should talk to the docs. Well, how would we make that happen?
Yeah.
And so we had, when I first made the post that I did, we had a group of, I think there were 7 or 8 people who said, tell us how to get in there. And I said, you need to pretend to be a drug rep. You need to bring something that makes sense to the office people. What you don't want to do is call up and say, I'd like to make an appointment with Dr. Joe because I can solve all of his problems. And he's going to shoot you down because he's the smartest human being on the planet,
Yeah.
MD stands for medical deity. So you get the office people to like you first, and you bring them stuff and you answer their questions. And if they have weight loss questions, so I have a philosophy in life that if you pick up the phone and call me and ask me a question, I will 100% answer it. Whatever that question is, it doesn't matter whether you're a client of mine, not a client of mine, I will answer your question. Now, if you have a lot of questions, then you probably ought to become a client of mine.
Right.
So I dealt with them. They suggested I talk with the doctors, and I went in. When I finally got the meeting with the first set of doctors, there were two. I said, here's the problem. You're overworked. You get 5 to 10 minutes with a client, and we both know you need a half an hour, but you can't do that. And you've got standards of care that you have to comply with. And even if you know that what you're doing is not optimum for them, the industry has decided that, you can't tell a type 2 diabetic to just lose weight and it'll be okay, because you believe in your heart of hearts that they won't lose the weight anyway. And the reason you believe that is because most of them won't. So the perfect situation is you get them started, and then you send them to me. And then I'm going to spend a half an hour with them, or an hour. That strategy session can go as long as it needs to go. I've had them go as long as 3 hours. And then the real kicker, if you really want more than that first doctor, you start taking notes in medical shorthand and sending them back to the doctor. Don't write it out in the way you're used to doing it. You go find a medical dictionary and learn that /C means with and /S means without. And you write it the way you want to present yourself as a medical professional as well.
Great tip.
And you want to serve notes back to this doctor all the time. I have a few clients that, so I want to put this in perspective. This is maybe 1% of my work. Mm-hmm. I go to the doctor with the client and explain what they just got told. So the key is treat yourself like the medical professional that you are. You're a health coach. Mm-hmm. So you need to start taking notes like a medical person and presenting it back to the doctor. And when they see that you're giving them back what they're looking to find, they're going to be more likely to send people your way.
So did you identify doctors you wanted to reach out to, or did other doctors refer you, or did clients? No, so tell me about that, how that grew from.
The first one came from a client, said, I really wish you and my doctor would talk.
Oh, yeah.
So, well, give him my number and tell him you can call me anytime. And knowing full well he's never going to call. I mean, he's a medical deity. What does he need me for? And so the first indication that it might be a good choice was based on the fact that when he heard my name again, it would not have been the first time he heard my name. So I called his office and bribed his staff with food.
There you go.
Now, they're used to the drug reps bringing in garbage. I bring in good stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's a differentiator. It helps you stand out for sure. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Imagine if I show up talking about I can help you with your health, and I'm going to bring you chocolate dipped strawberries.
Yep. And look, so everything Bill's talking about, boy, does this bring back memories for me when I was in my finance days. And I worked for a money manager, an asset manager. We sold mutual funds, and my clients were not investors. They were the advisor. And I needed to get in front of the advisor. So how did I get in front of the advisor who didn't know who I was or didn't really know anything?
A financial doctor, huh?
Oh, there you go. I had to get past the gatekeeper. I had to get past the receptionist, the person on the phone, and learning how to learn more about them, learn more about the office, what times of day were kind of better to approach them, and really at the end of the day, understand their business and where their pain points were. So a lot of what Bill's talking about is this is kind of basic sales 101. And although Bill, I mean, you've got 38 doctors. Do you feel like people need 38 doctors? I mean, do you have most of your
No.
clients? Yeah.
No, what you need is you need one. And to be perfectly honest, number one was harder to get than number 38 was. They start talking to each other, and it gets easier every time you do, and you get slicker at it, and so Lori, you know what I want you to verify what I'm saying. If you go in trying to sell something, you will fail. I go in offering solutions. Somebody in chat said, so Bill, what food do you bring? And I just answered real quickly, smoked meat with grilled vegetables. Everybody likes good smoked stuff.
Why not? Yeah.
And I have more than once brought in some Primal Kitchen barbecue sauce because I didn't like the sauce that was being sold.
Oh, I love that. Bill, do you keep up with these doctor offices? Do you visit every quarter with food?
I would be remiss if I only came once a quarter.
Louisa saying I can't hear anything. I don't know. Everybody else can hear us, though, I think. I'm not sure why, Louisa. I'm sorry about that. Oh, okay. Julie's asking, do you charge your normal client rate or do they take any cut?
I do not pay referral fees. Whether you're talking about a client in the gym or a doctor, I don't do referral fees at all.
Yeah.
I'm pretty popular for giving really good gifts.
Look,
One of the tricks.
I would think any good sort of caregiver or fiduciary, this was true in the financial world too, is if I thought somebody was an expert in a certain area and I was referring a client to that expert, I was referring them because this was the best person I knew to solve my client's problem. I would never in a million years expect a kickback. Right? What we're all sort of reaching out for. Now, it's different, I think, if you're approaching a doctor to somehow run some sort of co-branded collaborative program out of their office. That might be a different story, but that's not what you're doing. They're referring clients to work with you privately.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I answer a question here where it says smoked meats, not paleo? I beg to differ.
Yeah.
And grilled stuff, carcinogenic, I beg to differ. We'll have to disagree. And even if we 100% agreed, I would tell you that you don't make. I'm looking for a new client. I'm not looking to convert them day one.
Mm-hmm.
We take baby steps all the time as well.
And smoked meats are low and slow, very much in line with more of a paleo primal lifestyle.
Yeah.
And in terms of grilling, I mean, you marinate something and it removes a lot of the risk there, mitigates a lot of that stuff. But Janet's asking, Bill, popular for giving good gifts. Give us some examples, please. She wants to know.
Okay, so I'm going to give you two scenarios. This we've been doing from the beginning of the gym. You get a feel for when people are about to quit the gym, and I can get them to stay 2 more months by giving them a water bottle that's branded Brute. Now the company is called Brute, but I don't have to tell them that. So I give water bottles. I just gave one of the doctor's offices a cappuccino machine. They were doing Keurig crap and the most expensive, worst coffee in the world. And I'm a coffee snob, and they just got a cappuccino machine.
Wow, that's a good gift.
Really good coffee. I said I'm a coffee snob, right? I'm going to tell you, I'm such a snob that I roast my own beans.
Wow.
And it's very common for me to drop off a pound of freshly roasted beans. The other thing is to listen, and people will tell you what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And pay attention with the thought that at some point you're going to have to give a gift. And if you're talking about doctor's offices, can I be your client? Yes, we'll talk about my online business in a minute. The people, if you get comfortable with them, they will accidentally tell you what it is they would love to have. And I kind of set a limit. If it's doctors, I tend to not give more than about $200. Private individuals is probably a third of that.
It's the thoughtfulness. So much of that is lost, I think, especially over the last 2 years where it was so hard to see people in person and really do anything.
Yeah.
I mean,
the crappiest gift in the world is?
What's that? An e-gift card?
A gift, yes, exactly. Yep. Yeah. I don't care enough to find something nice for you, but I'm going to tell you where to buy it.
Yeah. Here's your $25 Amazon gift card.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. I used to try to give away local, I would go buy something like made from a local artist or like a local business owner, something that you could only find and do that kind of stuff.
We
Uh,
we can do a fair amount of that here because this is a resort area, recreational area.
yeah.
We're right on the big lake, and everybody talks about our Lake Michigan is the size of an ocean. Okay, you know that you're from Illinois,
Yeah.
and there are T-shirts all over the place that say salt free and shark and salt free. I give some of those away occasionally.
Yeah.
Um, but
There
if
was
you listen, and I can tell you, if Laura will lean to her right a little bit, I bet I could pick up right away something that I could gift to her. Do you all figure it out? What would you give her?
more on gifts for all the office or just blinds. Well, I mean, I moved from Illinois to Florida, and the only family I brought with me was my husband and my two little ones. So my entire home is filled with pictures of my family. I have these mixed tiles up on my back wall pictures, but my dining area, like my kitchen dining area, I call it the wall of fam, where I have pictures, those mixed tile pictures all over my wall in my dining room. So I love that kind of stuff.
So let me tell you what I don't do. Notice this coffee cup
Stuff,
and
yeah.
recognize that logo. I don't ever give those away. That's promotional. If a member comes in and says, "Hey, I give every new member a T-shirt and a coffee cup," but I don't give the doctors or the doctors' offices coffee cups that say bar and plate, because that's a promotion and they recognize it as that. It needs to be something that is genuinely a gift.
So Janet's asking more on gifts. Janet's really on this gift thing. She's curious about this. So gifts for all office, or just one or two special contacts, gifts for doctors?
Well, here's what I do.
Yeah.
The office manager gets the best gift.
Of course.
Dry Farms wines are a good gift. And that's the only kind of wine that I'll give away. I've been known to give, so I'm a paleo guy. Okay. I've been known to give away good tequila. I can't think of any occasion where I gave a gift to the office, but I bring in stuff that everyone in the office can enjoy.
Julie's saying I'm an affiliate for one of our Primal sisters here. That's right, Annika McCann. We had her on the podcast, the early days of our podcast, who runs Primal Botanical, full spectrum CBD products. I send my clients body butters, bath salts. I mean, what a cool idea.
Great idea. I'm going to tell you, I would not, however, send that to a doctor because I don't know how they're going to react to CBD.
That's a good point too. Yeah. Yeah, but some of our, I know Ana Gonzalez has put together a whole array of sort of primally friendly and sort of low carb baking mixes. It says Primal 24.
Yeah. Well,
know.
and in addition, right outside my entry door, we've been growing peppers and tomatoes, and people notice and go, well, you're in an industrial area, and I'm in a heavily retail area, and I'm growing vegetables outside. Actually, I'm not growing vegetables, am I? I'm growing tomatoes, which are fruits, and peppers, which are, I've given some of that away to people because it's far more abundant than I anticipated.
Yeah. So one more thing I wanted you to touch on, because so you've taken the primary course, you've taken the master coach course.
Yeah. And I've been a facilitator for everyone since.
Yeah.
Say again.
And so you've had your own program running for a while, but you still bought Primal Pro, and I'm just curious how you're using it.
Well, here I use it as kind of a funnel. I don't think I have anybody currently using it, but my thought process when you came out, I think I was first or second person to buy it. It was less than $1,000, and you've got 3 months worth of stuff done. And the original intent was, I'm going to take yours and I'm going to modify it, because I can modify all of that stuff way faster than I can write it from scratch. And at the time I was interested in following the model that a lot of people do, where you bring people in, you work with them for 3 months and send them on their way. it works incredibly well for that. I looked at it from the other perspective, $1,000 worth of my time spent writing that stuff. My personal training rate's $158 an hour. You think I could write 3 months worth of stuff in 10 hours? I'm pretty sure I couldn't do that.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. Yeah.
The only thing that I did, the only modification I ended up doing, like two. The first one is Aaron narrates it. I took that out. I don't want them to hear Aaron's voice. I love Aaron, but I don't want my clients hearing her voice. And there were some links to some Primal specific stuff that I changed to link to my stuff. But I looked at it for me, it was just a calculator game. Yeah. So, let's make the numbers easy. Let's say I only charged $100 an hour. So I've got 10 hours to write 3 months worth of stuff.
Yeah.
I consider myself a pretty good writer, but I don't think I can do that.
I mean, I've been using it too, so that I can speak to it a little bit more. And I'm starting to add like female specific content around female hormones and menstrual cycle and helping them kind of understand what's happening there. And so I'm taking, so I have it, and then I'm duplicating it, and I'm going to have one that's just for women. And then I'm going to have another one that includes some strength training, some like a workout portion, because Coach Catalyst has workout material in there that I can use. Sorry, you just heard me really walking out the front door.
And I'll tell you, I use Coach Catalyst. It wasn't what I used before, but I use it for my online training clients as well.
It's great.
But I also use a bunch of different software. Somebody asked, when I was facilitating one night, we talked about the number of, somebody asked me how many clients I have. So I actually told them. And he said, how do you do that? I said, well, good software and good support staff.
Yeah, but you got to kind of work up to that. I think a lot of the people listening here, are probably just starting out a little bit. And so it's kind of, you have to, I think in terms of like purchasing resources and understanding where to invest your money is what's going to get you your biggest bang for the buck in the moment.
You want some opinion?
Yeah, let's lay it on me.
Practice better. It's dynamite. Coach Catalyst with Primal Pro, dynamite. Beyond that, I don't think you need very much other than, maybe Google Sheets, the Google Workspace.
Rosemary to see
what. So Julie asked, support staff meaning VA, virtual assistants? No, I have people that work here for me. Sports staff are not virtual.
He's got a gym, he's got an office. So Julie, if you don't have like a physical office, a VA would make more sense, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about this a couple times on our podcast with professionals that's what they do. They act as like a hiring agency, I guess, for health coaches. And we've had two people on that have virtual assistant businesses, and that's what they do. They pair online entrepreneurs up with VAs based on their business. And that's one of the questions I've asked is, what should you hire first? And their answer is always, what do you hate doing? What's the one
Great
thing
answer.
you hate doing that just sucks up your time? That's what you get somebody else to do for you.
Yep.
There will be some things that really only you can do, but for the most part,
Well, and let me throw a warning in. Many years ago, when I was first starting this journey, I hired a nutritionist, a big name. If I said his name, you'd all know who I was talking about.
Oh.
Who it became very obvious very quickly that he was not the one answering my emails. It was somebody else answering my emails, and my thought at the time is that $750 a month, I need you to answer my emails.
Oh yeah.
So there's two parts to that. If you're selling your knowledge, it should be your knowledge that you're selling. And number two, every time you get a good question, save that answer.
Yeah.
How many questions you get, Laura?
Oh my
15?
God. Yeah.
More. As far as unique questions, there's not that many. I average about 100.
So it depends on what role we're talking, but you're right. Especially in the beginning of a coaching relationship, I get a lot of questions. Yeah,
exactly. I average 130 emails a day. And out of those 130 emails a day, the ones that are coaching clients are probably half of those.
Mhm.
And out of those, I've answered every single question they're going to ask at least once before.
Yeah. And by the way, Gmail, you can build in pre-written answers to things. You can build that in so that if a client asks you a question that you've answered 85 times, you can have that pre-built into Gmail, and you can reply with that and then just make the adjustments necessary to make it, relevant to if they asked any other questions, or you wanted to add some other personal notes. Hey, how was your trip? Or, whatever. So,
Well, and another, my favorite Gmail tip is, so I'm going to tell you here, my Gmail address should be really easy to figure out. It's my first and last name at Gmail. But some people think that my email address is my first and last name plus Primal Health Coach. And that will come to my normal one, but it comes telling me this Primal Health Coach. You can also do Bill Sias plus the gym.
Yeah.
Or Bill Sias plus PHCI. So the big advantage to that is I know who's selling my name.
Yeah. Janet's asking where you can do that in Gmail. I'm going to have to try to go back in and see if I can kind of, you know what, Janet, hit me up tomorrow and I'll share with you where you can do that. Because you can absolutely do that, kind of have these like stored templated responses. Makes things easy. So we can talk about it. But I want to wrap things up here because we're at about an hour, mostly because my butt was late. But we start around 6:15ish. It's about, I'm sorry, 5:15. It's about 6:19 now, at least my time. So any last questions? Now's your time, kids. Type it in there. But Bill, I would love for you.
I love that you called them kids.
I call everybody kids. I think at this juncture, this is fun. Let's get out there and just.
Well, let's be honest. I'm going to be 69 years old next month. I retired the first time at 33, discovered that didn't work for me, and have worked ever since. If it's not fun, I'm not going to do it, and I'm still going to do it. And people ask all the time, were you going to retire? Well, I'm not going to retire. I'm going to die in squat rack number 1.
Yeah. When you love what you do, you don't feel like work. I mean, it was funny because I was thinking back to, that old job. And because I was a neighbor, we were out to dinner and we were talking about my old job and how much money I made in that job. And he asked me if I ever missed it. And I'm like, no, because I make enough. More money is only important in the absence of having enough, in my humble opinion. And I think that's the case for anything. So we're completely fine. But at the end of the day, I realized that the only thing that was keeping me in that job was the paycheck. And so I was spending 50 to 60 hours a week away from my family. And so the purpose of the paycheck was a means to an end, right? I need to be able to support my family. I need to be able to pay for the roof over my head. And, a paycheck is a means to an end. It helps support you to be able to live the life you want to live. So I was spending 50 to 60 hours a week in something that I didn't really enjoy doing, talking about crap I didn't care about, or surrounded by people I don't even really like. All for a means to an end. So I'm like, there's got to be a better means to that end. And then that's when it was, this is what I'm really passionate about. There's got to be a way for me to really build a business out of this. People keep telling me this is something I should do. So I think I should just figure out how to do it. And you guys have heard, a lot of you have heard my story before. I mean, it took me 3 years to figure out how to do it, because at the time there was no program that taught you how to do this. Not one. And we're one of more and more programs are now coming to market with at least some sort of business support, but we were the first one that led the way. All right, we got a few last minute questions here. So any additional.
I'm going to add just a little thing to tag on to what you said.
Yeah.
I work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week because I want to.
Yeah. I love it. Right. You get to the point where work is optional. And for you, it's kind of like, this is what I love doing and I love it. So Phoenix is asking any additional resources or tips on Practice Better.
The thing with Practice Better is get the low end version and play with it. Mm-hmm. Put yourself in with a client and just fool around.
Yeah, and I'm working with the people at Practice Better actually to see if there's a way we can replicate Primal Pro on there somehow. Their functionality is different, so I don't know if it would work, but that's something that I'm working on. to see if we could find a way to get that plugged in there.
Well,
Although
Laura, shall I remind you that I spent 45 years as a software engineer?
Oh,
And if you need help with technical stuff, I would be happy to work with you.
all right, that would be lovely. Yeah. Well, they were going to see about if there's any way we could have a similar setup where you just kind of click a link and boom, the program is uploaded for you and practice better, but the functionality will be different. So we would need to tinker around with how that works. Janet is saying, Bill, learned so much. Thanks for your wisdom and success details. I specialize in dementia, Alzheimer's, reversal. So if I can ever help your business, let me know. That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah. O'Nellie's responding to Phoenix, pretty savvy about, see, this is what I love about this community. Like, hey, I can help.
And O'Nelly is just a doll. So
yeah, thanks, O'Nellie. Thanks, Bill. Got to run. This has been great. So parting words. What are your, as we kind of wrap things up, what for people kind of just starting out and kind of figuring their way, what sort of words of wisdom would you share?
So I'm going to tell you the same thing I tell the people who work for me. You get 0% of what you don't ask for.
Yes. Yes. I love
So that's the bottom line, and it's whether you're talking about the trainers out on the floor or you're talking about health coaches. If you're the best health coach in the world and you can't sell it to anybody, you're the worst health coach in the world. If you're the best trainer in the world and you have no clients, you're the worst trainer in the world. So get good at sales. And by sales, I mean, for me, sales is really simple. I have a product, I have a thing that I do, and I have a price attached to it. I'm going to explain to you very carefully what that is. I'm going to answer all of your questions. And then at the end of the day, it's very important to me that you make a decision. I don't care if you say yes. I don't care if you say no. I just want you to decide. And you get 0% of what you don't ask for.
You've got to ask, and don't be afraid of it,
Right.
And look, I guess some people have told me that's easy coming from someone who's spent, decades in sales. You get, the fact of the matter is, if you don't ask for it, you won't get it. That's very true. But sales can also, it doesn't have to be this kind of used car salesman feel.
No.
I always looked at this as I'm offering to help.
Yep.
Right? I'm offering to help. If all you really want is me to answer a question like you, I'll answer any question. I don't charge people for that. But if you want to work with me for real transformation, that requires time, effort, and a lot of other things. So you've got. And
it requires both of us having a clear vision of what it is you're buying. If you're coming to me and you're saying, let me tell you a little story. I had a lady who quit the gym after 1 month. And I said, so what's the problem? She said, I didn't lose 30 pounds. I said, was that an expectation or an agreement? So we never agreed to 30 pounds in a month because I wouldn't do that.
Right.
The opposite is I had a lady who came in and said, I need to lose 30 pounds in 6 weeks for a wedding. Can you do that? And I said, yes, no problem. I'm going to go out to my truck and get a chainsaw. Do you want to lose the right or the left leg?
30 pounds in 6 weeks. Geez. Look, at the end of the day, what you can share is how you can help. And this is what it costs for that help. And more than once someone has said, well, that sounds like a lot, and a lot of, my response is often, okay, but, in relation
compared to what?
Exactly. It's expensive compared to what? All these other inexpensive solutions that haven't worked. Have you added up all of the money that you spent on all the different diet pills and all these other, that hasn't worked, and so in relation to what, relative to what is always a great question. And at the end of the day, I have found that and I've told my clients this, that I have found the more financially invested my clients feel, the more emotionally and intellectually invested they are in the process. To your point,
it is worth what you paid for it.
Exactly. That's the exact point that you made earlier. That there's the dollar value that you attach to it is what the value is in the mind of the client. So
one of the first docs I signed on, we don't discuss prices with people until they come in for the strategy session. And with the doctors, the first I started to explain what my fee structure was, and a doctor named that I call Joshua because that's his real name, he leaned in and said, I don't care what you charge, it's cheaper than losing a leg. It's cheaper than losing fingers. And and he said, and with the guys that I send you, just remind them that type 2 diabetes leads to ED.
That'll fix it right there. You know, the other thing, and I know we got to go, but this comes up a lot too, in terms of just changing my eating style from essentially a junk food diet to a whole food diet, is how expensive it is. And then I'm like, you know what? It's only expensive if you're still buying all the crap. If you're adding whole foods to all of this crap because you've decided you're going to change the way you eat, but the rest of your family's still going to eat like garbage. Yeah, it's expensive. But if you're not buying the Doritos and all the other stuff, really at the end of the day, first of all, it might be a little bit more expensive at first. That's true. But I don't know about you guys, but I have found I actually eat less food. I buy less food because I'm not constantly malnourished and I'm not constantly craving and eating all the time. So I naturally kind of end up spending about the same, maybe a little less.
I did an experiment because one of my clients made the same comment, and I don't buy it. So there's a McDonald's not far from here, and I haven't been to one in decades. And I parked my car and walked up to the drive-up menu and calculated what a meal would be for a family of 4. Yeah. I can feed you for, I'm writing this book. Did I mention that? I can feed you for 4 days what they're going to do for 1 meal.
I love it. I can't wait to see that come out. Share it with us.
Me too. Boy, it's hard work.
Okay, so we've had our parting thought. Did we have our parting thought? Anything else you want to add before I, send them the hook, pull us off?
Don't do so. I have this thing that I give everybody, all of my diet clients. It's Bill's 8 rules of dieting.
All right.
And rule number 1 is the most important one. So can I swear?
Sure.
Rule number 1 is don't be an asshole. And by that, I mean, if Laura comes to my house and brings me a cupcake, I'm not going to go, I don't eat like that. I'm so much better than you. Mm-hmm. I went to a party recently and I took the cupcake and I didn't know this was a thing until I told somebody else about it. I ripped the bottom of the cupcake off and stuck it on the top and said, that makes more sense because now I don't get frosting in my nose. I took a bite, thanked her for it, put it back in the paper and threw it away. Yeah. I don't have to eat the whole thing just to be a nice guy.
Yeah.
And rule number 2 is don't eat foods you don't like. I'm going to add, don't do work that you don't enjoy. Mm-hmm. If you don't like being a health coach, don't be a health coach.
Right. If
you enjoy being a health coach, I promise you'll be successful.
I love it. I think that's a great place to stop, right? If you love being a health coach, I promise you're going to be successful. I love it. Awesome. Okay. So we will be sending out the replay to everyone who had to jump off. And I know a million people sent in, hey, I registered, but I'm not going to make it. I'll watch the replay. So, but we've gotten some feedback already from the chat, how much people really enjoyed this conversation. So Bill, when I first asked him to join me, he's like, well, do people really want to hear what I have to say? Let me just tell you, do you think they're interested? I'm like, yes, I think they're interested. And so I think this will be a really popular one. And I know I've learned a lot and I think people listening learned a lot. So thank you for sharing your wisdom.
Well, let me add one little tiny piece.
Okay.
If you have a question that you think I can help you with, it's billsias@gmail.com. And if you think we need to talk about it, send a message to billsias@gmail.com and I'll send you my phone number.
Awesome. Yeah. And where's the website so people can check that out?
Barandplate.fit.
Barandplate.fit. Awesome. Thank you so much, Bill. And thanks everybody for joining me. And again, I'm sorry for my tardiness. The internet was not my friend, but I got it up. So thanks for your patience.
Bye. So it's customary we all wave now, right?
Yes. Bye.
Bye.
Awesome. Later, guys.
Bye-bye.